What is up, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, giving you commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. And thank you guys so much for joining, and thank you guys for helping me reach 480. I really appreciate that. Tonight, Monday Night Raw comes to us from Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA. And in honor of that, I would like to give you guys my top 10 favorite Nashville matches. May I also point out that, ironically, last year, Philadelphia hosted WrestleMania, where Cody Rhodes finished the story. And last night, the Philadelphia Eagles finished their story against the almost undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. So, Philadelphia is the place where stories are written and finished, I guess. But let's get down to Nashville. We're going to start off with at number 10 in Nashville. We have the Usos versus the Street Profits in a Money in the Bank rematch, SummerSlam 2022, with Jeff Jarrett as the special guest referee. As I said, a great match at Money in the Bank, but it was a controversial inning. So we had to find someone that'll call it down the middle without mistakes. So they found none other than Jeff Jarrett, hometown guy, and he would referee the match. The match was good, just like Money in the Bank. A lot of close calls, people bringing out their best moves, but in the end, it was a 1D that got the job done, aka 3D. And no one kicks out. I think it was the 1D. But either way, one thing I remember very clearly is that the Usos won. There was a little controversy going on with Montez Ford arguing with Jeff Jarrett, but it will play against them later because in the end, the Usos win and retain the undisputed tag team championships. Moving on to number 9, we have Judgment Day 2002, not to be confused with the group led by Simp19, Dom and Finn and Liv Morgan. But nonetheless, this was the original pay-per-view name in May, called Judgment Day. I had the pleasure of seeing this as a kid. Someone recorded this and showed it to me, and it was a good one. This was Hell in a Cell, a rematch from WrestleMania 18, where in Toronto, where WWE's Elimination Chamber this year will be. They fought all inside the cell, sledgehammers, steel steps, but once they got outside of the match, they broke the announce table with a DDT by Triple H. They fought on top of the cell using a 2x4, and a pedigree on top of the cage would win the match for Triple H. It was almost like a Falls Count Anywhere match. However, this match also showed that nobody is safe inside Hell in a Cell because referee Tim White would get injured and we wouldn't see him again until a match with Chris Jericho and, of course, Christian at WrestleMania 20. Referee Tim White is Chris Jericho's kryptonite because he hasn't won those two matches. Next on this list at number 8, we have Sheamus versus Cesaro for the U.S. Championship, Night of Champions 2014. Obviously, Night of Champions 2016 was everyone's favorite, even though it ended up in a draw. But this match was also good. It was a hard-hitting match, by the way, for the U.S. Championship, which I believe Sheamus was holding. But Cesaro was riding a lot of momentum, especially after WrestleMania 30 of that year. Nonetheless, as much of a hard-nosed hitting match as this was, Cesaro would be his own worst enemy when he would pound Sheamus into the corner for almost more than 5 seconds, which is against the rules. The referee pulled him off, which gave Sheamus time to go for the Brogue Kick and win the match and retain the U.S. title. Next at number 7, we go back to the same event. We have Chris Jericho versus Randy Orton in just a plain old match. Now, like I said, Tim White is Jericho's kryptonite, but apparently Nashville as a city is Jericho's kryptonite because it was not his night at all. Of course, Jericho brought his best moves, Code Breaker and the Walls of Jericho. But he made one mistake that I wish people would learn. You don't fly with a match against Randy Orton. Chris Jericho went for a high flying move, and Randy Orton caught him with an RKO. When will people learn? You don't do high flying moves against Randy Orton. Y'all still have not learned that lesson yet. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, hoping for a different result. I'm just saying. And it worked against him. Randy Orton won. Next, let's go back to SummerSlam 2022. We have at the opening match, Bianca versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Championship. This is on my Becky Lynch Part 2 review. Be sure to check that out. But this match, like I said, was a rematch. It was a redemption match, rather, for Bianca, because the year prior to that, she lost the Women's Championship in one of the biggest squash matches of all time. However, 1 year later, after already getting redemption at WrestleMania, she got the ultimate redemption by defeating Becky and retaining her Raw Women's Championship on the very same event where all of this mess started in the first place. So Bianca finished her story before Cody Rhodes ever had a chance to. And unfortunately, Cody was injured at the time. Next on this list, we opened up the show with Bianca winning, but we ended the show at number 5 with Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. Oh my goodness. I have never, in all my years as a wrestling fan, I have never, even in the Attitude Era, have I seen anything like this match. This was the wildest match in WWE history. We saw a tractor, not a truck, but a tractor tilt the ring halfway with Roman Reigns still in it, which was one of the wildest things we ever seen. It took help from all of the bloodline, because Roman always has his bloodline interfering, to bury Brock Lesnar to help him win. Even Paul Heyman was F5'd through an announce table, and Austin Theory tried to cash in only to get F5. But again, wildest night main event ever. That was the wildest last man standing match, wildest match ever. Never seen nothing like that. And Roman Reigns won. By the way, Roman Reigns catching the mic at the end of the announcements, pure cool. Next on this list, we have at number 4, we have Tonga and Tongaloa. Yeah. Sound like Bishop Jakes. Versus DIY versus the Street Profits. We saw tables break. We saw announce tables break. We saw ladders break. Montez Ford putting Tongaloa through the wooden table with a splash. They darn near shield bombed Tonga through the announce table as the Street Profits were fighting DIY on the ladders. Both guys were put through ladders that broke, which gave Tongaloa a chance to go up the ladder and win the match for the team. This match took place on an episode of SmackDown of last year. It was October the 14th of last year. Next, at number 3, we go back to Judgment Day 2002 with Kurt Angle versus Edge. I forgot to put Edge on the stand. But in any event, Kurt Angle versus Edge for hair versus hair match. It was an epic match. Both men brought out their best moves, at times kicking out of each other's finishers. But it was a roll-up pin by Edge that would win the match, meaning Kurt Angle had to get his head shaved bald. I have the original Kurt Angle, by the way. I have the Kurt that was before he got his head shaved. I like retro stuff, as you can see. But in any event, that was Kurt getting his head shaved. But the icing on the cake is after Kurt got chased in the back and fought his way back to the barber, and he was knocked unconscious and got a haircut. Instead of the fans chanting, "You suck," they chanted, "You're bald." I fell out laughing when they chanted, "You're bald." And on top of that, somebody actually had a sign making what Kurt Angle looked like bald. Fans can see into the future. It was hilarious. Speaking of Kurt Angle, at number two, we have Kurt Angle in a much better state in Nashville history. This was when the King of the Mountain match happened at Slammiversary 2007 with Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christian Cage before he liked talking about dead dads, and Chris Harris. Now, when you put these five together, you know you're going to get a couple of good highlights. In the end, Kurt Angle won the match, and Samoa Joe, who had been a rival of Kurt from earlier that year, tried to shake his hand only to get Angle slammed. At the time, Kurt Angle was a babyface, but eventually Kurt would turn into something he is very familiar with, which is being a brash heel. At number one, we go to WCW NWA with Ric Flair, versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat for the WCW NWA World Heavyweight Championship, like the one right here. Had that since I was 12. But in any event, moving forward, this was somewhat a redemption match for Ric Flair because Ric Flair lost the championship to Ricky Steamboat, and it took a couple of tries to finally get the championship off of him, and this would be the night where Ric Flair would win the championship from the very person that took it from him in an amazing match. By the way, Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, they had classics. When you think of classics, you think Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage. R versus R. Anytime you get an R versus R match, you're going to have a good match. Randy versus Ricky, awesome. Rick versus Ricky, awesome. It's just 5 stars together. These guys are amazing together. R versus R is an amazing match. And this was one of them. Fun fact, Ric Flair came to the ring with women on both sides, which is where Bobby Roode got his inspiration for NXT TakeOver San Antonio. And of course, that's when Ric Flair won the match. Now, that's my list of my top 10 favorite matches from Nashville, Tennessee. Let me know which one was your favorite. By the way, that SummerSlam theme song from 2022 was awesome. Anyway, let me know what your favorite Tennessee matches were. I'm your host, Dan Cody. And fun fact, I forgot to mention, it wasn't one of the best matches that happened, but there's a historic event that took place. In the main event of Judgment Day 2002, The Undertaker defeated Hulk Hogan to become World Heavyweight Champion, WWE Champion for the fourth time. Notice, just so there were no excuses, he won the match with a chokeslam. Oh, the irony. Have a great day, everyone. See you next time.